go for launch.
5.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
4.
My friend, we cannot keep this a secret any longer.
This whole thing is insane.
3.
Quiet, please. I am analyzing.
Where's the kaboom?
2.
There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
1.
We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image, without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now is your chance to, well, we've warned you.
In 1818, the immortal book about a man who made a monster was born in the young female brain of one Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. And over 100 years later, the genius of her imagination was transferred to the medium of the motion picture. I was the misshapen creature in those Depression days of 1931 that had to compete with Father Christmas to bring pleasure to people during Yuletide. But somehow it worked. People queued up at box offices all over the country, breaking records. And afterwards it was evident that millions all over the world felt sympathy for the monster. It was clear from the letters they sent that while they were terrified by my characterization, at the same time they pitied the monster that I portrayed. And that pleased me because it was exactly what I had hoped.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! Oh, in the name of God! Now I know what it feels like to be God!
Greetings, my fellow galactic travelers, and welcome back to Planet 8. This is your mission commander Larry speaking to you from our hidden base. Chief Engineer Bob is here by my side as always in the command center, and circling Planet 8 in our orbital spy satellite is Reconnaissance Officer Karen.
And on this episode of Planet 8, our friend and yours has come to visit us again, Lord Blood-Rah. Welcome to the show, Lord Blood-Rah.
Always thrilled to be here on Planet 8, and, you know, to send a message to Planet 8 this time. I can't, unfortunately, be there in person, but always a thrill to talk to you. And my lords and ladies in Planet 8 land, glad to be here.
Here you go. Thank you, Lord Blood-Rah. Now, today's episode, we're going to be talking about, since we have Lord Blood-Rah here, it had to be a monster. We're going to talk about Frankenstein's monster. Straight away, let's kick it up to the satellite. Karen.
Well, thank you, Larry, and nice to have you here, Lord Blood-Rah, as always. It's always a pleasure. And yes, Frankenstein's monster. Always great to talk about Frankenstein. I think we all love talking about this topic. We've done a little bit on Frankenstein when we talked about the Universal monsters and Hammer. So we've covered a little bit, but now we get to spend some concentrated time on Frankenstein. So, of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the beginnings of Frankenstein with Mary Shelley's novel back in 1818. And I think one of the striking things about it is that of all the monsters, you know, we talk about the Universal monsters and Dracula and Wolfman and everything, they all have really occult origins, and Frankenstein in many ways can be viewed as like the earliest science fiction novel.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the monster is not really brought to life through supernatural means, but through scientific means, you know. So we have a creature here who, in some ways, it has the same feel as a lot of these other Gothic characters, but is really brought about in a very different way, because you have the scientist Victor Frankenstein bringing to life a creature through scientific methods. Although in the novel, Shelley doesn't really describe exactly how that is done. It's sort of left up to the imagination.
That's right.
Yes. The movies sort of popularized the idea of lightning or electricity, bringing the power source. And we may talk about some other films and other ways that the creature was brought to life. But really, this is a creature that's a little bit different than some of the other monsters. And I think that's kind of interesting. And the whole concept of mankind or a man playing God is really one of the things that I think has fascinated people throughout, the decades with Frankenstein. Unlike some of the other creatures, there's really a cautionary tale here behind it all.
Oh, yes.
And so I think that's one of the things that keeps people going back to this story and revisiting it and recreating it over and over again.
Definitely, yeah. It's a tale of it almost has the meaning that you assign to it. It's about the responsibility of science to society. It's about parental responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Frankenstein creates the monster, his child. It reaches up to him, and he shuns it and runs away from it.
Right.
It has so many different connotations, especially today, that our science has gotten. So all the ramifications it has on AI, which is something that Mary Shelley could not have known about back then. Intelligent machines, it's a fascinating book and a fascinating concept all the way around.
Well, that's the thing that fascinates me, because obviously these are totally new concepts back in the 1800s. This isn't something where there's all these monster and sci-fi novels and things to draw from. And yet Mary Shelley came up with all this, and she was like in her late teens, right?
Yeah.
She was not that old when she wrote the book.
Right.
So
yeah, she was 18 years old. Yeah. There are some predecessors to the Frankenstein monster in Jewish myth, the Golem.
Right.
It's kind of been likened to that, a stone statue that is brought to life when a scroll with the symbol of life written on it is inserted in the mouth, and it comes to life, and it can avenge wrongs. It was almost the first superhero, really. But as far as one man's obsession with beating death and creating life, and building a body that he animates, it's a totally new concept and a brilliant concept.
I thought it was interesting, when you talk about the Mummy or Dracula or the Frankenstein's monster or a zombie, they're all dealing with something that is in one shape or form dead, but comes back to life or is reanimated in some way using different methodologies. Dracula and the Mummy have nothing in common other than they were reanimated and brought back to life, or some form of life. And I thought that was interesting. Mary Shelley was able to go in a completely different direction with reanimating different pieces of cadavers, for the time. And like Bob had said, for a 16-year-old, I mean, that's just like, what kind of a nightmare did that poor thing have, to come up with?
Yeah. It is amazing. Yeah. And something that I don't believe none of the films that I've seen, none of the Frankenstein films I've seen touches on this, but in the novel, it says that Frankenstein not only collected body parts from universities, mortuaries, and graves, but also from slaughterhouses. So there are animal parts as well in the monster, because he's not only trying to create a man, but he's trying to create the ultimate man. So why not, steal some animal parts and do that too. In the novel, this is something that none of the other ones films have touched on too. In the novel, the monster is 8 foot tall.
Right.
That has not been done in any film. They've made him tall, close to 7 feet in some instances.
Actually, it's funny because last night I watched Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Yes.
And And Costello describes him as 8 feet tall.
Oh.
In one scene, yeah. 8 feet
right.
tall. And it was just like...
Well, compared to Costello, he probably looked 8 feet.
Well, yeah. Well, I think then it was just... He was supposed to be exaggerating, but...
Right.
But it's just amazing that he happened to say 8 feet. And then even in Young Frankenstein, they don't really say how big, but...
No.
Gene Wilder talks about the fact that all the organs and all the parts have to be larger, so so he can get in there and do all this stuff.
Out of the novel.
Yeah,
That is why he's made so big, because he wasn't a practical surgeon, so he needed the parts bigger, so his clumsy hands could get them to work.
There you go.
Yeah,
and he would have enormous von Stuka.
Yeah, that's right. This is kind of a weird historical quirk in the Frankenstein legend, but some people who have researched her possible inspirations for Frankenstein note that she had traveled through Germany and at one time stayed at Castle Frankenstein, which was owned by the Frankenstein family. And about 100 years before that, in that castle, there was a alchemist who lived there named Johann Dippel. And Dippel was, as alchemists do, trying to find the Philosopher's Stone, change lead into gold. But he was also looking for a way to reanimate the dead, as legend has it. Some people say she heard that, mixed that in with a whole bunch of other inspirations, experiments with galvanism, with making dead limbs jump with electricity, things like that. That all kind of coalesced in her mind. And then at the Via Diodato, which we owe a lot of horror lore to that one stay that evening, she wrote Frankenstein during that period. And I think we're very lucky that she took the name of the castle for the novel Frankenstein, or we could be sitting here talking about Dippel.
That's right. Well,
Dippel's monster, right?
Talking about Castle Frankenstein, and obviously Dracula was an actual historical figure. That is what led to the fact that all these classic Universal monsters, and Universal cannot copyright any of them. They could copyright their look, like Frankenstein's flat head or whatever, but they do not have any claim to the name Frankenstein or Dracula. Right. Wolfman maybe, but everyone just do werewolves. And mummies obviously existed before they made movies. So that's why you have this, and we'll talk about them today, this great proliferation of Frankenstein movies.
Right.
I mean, it's like anyone can make a Frankenstein movie as long as you don't make him look like the Universal Frankenstein.
And almost everybody has.
That's true. That's true. But that's what I like. That's why Hammer was able to do Frankenstein and Dracula and the Mummy and a werewolf and all that. Although they did not do a Creature from the Black Lagoon. Now that was like,
that I'm sure
that was an original Universal creation, so they could copyright that or trademark that.
Right.
And the mole people.
And the mole people. And the Metaluna Mutant and whatever.
You don't make a mole people movie.
But no, I mean, yeah, that's why, like I say, anyone can do a Frankenstein movie, anyone can do a Dracula movie, anyone can do a mummy for that matter.
Oh, and all the books. I mean, there's so many stories and books, the comics. I mean, I may mention something about some of the Marvel comics, but yeah, it just lives on in popular culture.
Oh, yeah.
Now, do you think that's kind of why he's been so famous, just because anyone can do it, so there's been so many and it kind of keeps it in the mainstay?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Like if Universal owned it and they just made those films in the 30s and 40s and then that was it, would he have been as popular as he is now with Hammer and everybody else making these other movies?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, obviously he's the most sympathetic of the quote-unquote monsters.
Yes.
I don't want to jump ahead, but there was a film, we all watched movies, and I'll wait till we get into the films, but there was a very poignant scene where the dialogue, the guy was questioning, the monster was questioning why, how, and who he was. And I think there's a lot of people, especially in your younger years, you're starting off in life and you're questioning who you are, what you're going to do, where you are in life. And in a weird way, it kind of reflects on some of our stories, not in a gothic horror patchwork put together way.
Speak for yourself.
But it's the eternal question, isn't it?
Right.
Why am I here? Do I have a purpose?
Do I have a flat head? What are these bolts for?
Right. Frankenstein's, I should say the monsters.
Yeah.
The big difference with him is he knows his creator, concrete creator, and his creator has rejected him.
Yeah.
That has so many ramifications. Again, with the parental responsibility and general responsibility for your actions, but to, in a concrete way, know your creator and know that you are rejected by your creator.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Psychologically, the monster is just an incredible construct. It really is. As a character, it's an amazing construct.
I will say, I was. My wife is cool, don't get me wrong, but we have to share time on. And I'm like, look, I need to burn through some Frankenstein movies. And she's like, well, I'm sorry, but I'm watching this thing about Jehovah's Witnesses. And I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting there watching. Now, to cut to the story, there were these kids that were abandoned by their parents. And look, there are people that abandon their kids outside of any cult or religion or whatever. But the deep psychological scars that these children had of their parents giving them away or pushing them away and never being able to ask why. At least the monster was able to, in certain stories and certain movies, confront Victor and say, why, Father? Why, Creator? And, depending on the movie or the book, he either got a okay answer, but he never got the answer.
Well, he never got the love he wanted. He never got the acceptance he wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
which was why he would rampage. Yeah, he says in the novel, I have a heart full of love, and if I can't express that love to humanity, then I will express the evil in my heart.
Yes.
To humanity.
Yeah. It just speaks levels. Obviously, all of us, one of our favorite monsters, Universal or otherwise. I tell you what, Bob was able to watch the most films. Let's kick it over to the what's one of the films you want to talk about, Bob?
Bob's on furlough and sitting around at home, so he can watch many movies. I actually did find on Amazon Prime, they had the 1910 Thomas Alva Edison Frankenstein.
They did.
Yes.
So it's like 14 minutes long, but now wasn't that like the first quote movie that was ever released was Frankenstein?
The very first film adaptation.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of liberties in its 14 minutes, and the end of it, it's like he goes in a mirror and disappears or something. It's just really kind of bizarre, but but I did watch that. I had not seen that before, but since it popped up, I said, I'm going to check this out for historical purposes.
There you go. Yeah.
But I binged my way through all the Universal ones. Basically, same thing. Lieutenant Debbie, I told her, hey, I got to watch some Frankensteins. So what we did was we watched all the Universal ones together at night. And then when I'm sitting on my butt on the couch all day, I was watching things like I Was a Teenage Frankenstein and Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster and Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell and all those kind of things. One that I thought, and this is jumping way ahead, but one that I thought was kind of interesting was I, Frankenstein.
That
you guys
was
seen
interesting.
It's almost like, it's like the underworld, or maybe even the John Wick of Frankenstein movies. It's like
Thomas Zane, was it?
Basically they cover the entire story of Frankenstein in the first 2 minutes of the movie. And then it starts off after, he and Victor are on the ice floe and all that. But he returns and he gets caught in between a war between gargoyles and demons.
Yeah.
And he actually becomes like a demon hunter. And it was pretty interesting. Like I say, after watching 2 weeks worth of cutting up bodies and reanimating them, this was like a different take, and it was maybe that's why I found it so interesting. But
well, interesting is a word.
Yeah.
Well, fascinating. Maybe why I enjoyed it more.
No, I agree. I've seen that film, Bob, and it went in a direction that I could not have imagined.
Yeah, I'll agree.
I give them credit. No one's ever done it before, and no one's ever done it again. Bob, did you get the sense that they wanted to do kind of like a trilogy or something out of that?
Oh, I'm sure they wanted to make a series out of it, but series of films
never manifested.
But yeah, I mean, it's obviously at the end it's left open to more stories, but and like I said, I watched a lot of the films, and some of the ones like I thought Frankenstein meets the space monster. He wasn't really Frankenstein. He was like a cyborg that they just kind of nicknamed Frankenstein.
Anything to sell a movie.
Yeah. Oh, and I watched Dracula versus Frankenstein, which was a creature feature staple.
Oh, yes.
Everybody's in there, including like Forrest J. Ackerman's in there. And,
right, yeah.
A bunch of Lon Chaney. Lon Chaney Jr.'s in there.
Oh, and, J. Carroll Nash, poor guy.
I really got to say,
pretty terrible.
Kind of going off on a lark here. After sitting there at night and watching Lon Chaney as the Wolfman, as Lawrence Stewart Talbot, and he's just one of my favorite actors in that whole series.
Uh-huh.
And then to see him in Dracula versus Frankenstein, where he's like a mute and he's disheveled and just kind of staggering around and probably drunk through most of the scenes. Well, it was pretty sad,
He was dying during that
time. Yeah, he had cancer, right?
He had the cancer. Yeah, that's why he didn't speak in the movie.
Yeah,
because he had throat cancer there. It was throat cancer, I believe, just like his father, wasn't it? I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was. It was okay. It was obviously an independent film.
Oh yeah.
But it has some interesting things. And another film that we talked about off air was Frankenstein: The True Story.
Yes.
The 2-part TV movie from 1973.
Mm-hmm.
And Shout Factory has a Blu-ray of that out now. And the 2 parts comes in like a little over 3 hours. Because obviously there were 2 2-hour movies, but they had all the commercials and everything in there.
Right.
And I was just amazed by the film. I forgot how good that thing was. And
it's been a couple of years since I've seen it. I need to see it again. I need to check.
Just the performances.
Amazon.
Especially the one performance that I think stuck out amongst all the actors in that movie was Jane Seymour. And she played, they call the Frankenstein monster Adam because he's the first. And then they create the woman, which they call Prima.
Right.
And she just, because she has this weird dark side to her. She's trying to be an English lady and fit in with Elizabeth and all the the parties they have and the people they meet. And she has to wear the choker because she has the stitches around her neck.
Right.
But then when she's at the dance and she's like shining at the dance, she's doing this whole big, they're all dancing in pairs, and then she kind of jettisons off and starts doing this ballet, and they all kind of split off, and she's the center of attention doing this big ballet.
Right.
When Adam, or the creature, shows up. And then she goes almost feral.
Yeah.
The look in her eye, and he goes towards her. She like attacks him. She like jumps at him and starts to try to scratch him in that before, spoiler alert, before he grabs her head and just yanks her head off, and it's just like...
That scene marred me for years.
Oh,
that was the only thing I could remember.
To this day, it's definitely a shocker.
I will say, though, do not stream it from Amazon, because that's what I did, and they chop it down to 2 hours, and it's almost incomprehensible.
No, you can't chop this down.
Yeah, I was watching it, and I'm going, wait, what what's going on? And 1 minute, Victor's off doing one thing, and then all of a sudden he's living somewhere else and something. I'm like, wait, what's going on here? And then I checked the runtime, and it was 2 hours. So how they take that and
I'm not sure what I was drinking when I was streaming it, but I had no problem watching it on Amazon.
Well, see, it's interesting because on the Blu-ray they have the first like hour and a half, and you can tell when it dips to black and it should be a commercial and coming, But when Adam like leaps off the cliff, lands in the water, that was the end of the first night. And they have the credits, and then they have opening credits, and they have a recap, and then they go into the second part. So you can either watch it in two parts, or you can watch it straight through, but you do get the feel of what it was like back then to see it in 2 nights.
I believe I have that on VHS. I think I taped it.
There you go.
I think I taped it when it was on, so I'm going to have to dig that out and rehook up my VHS player.
Lord Blood-Rah, what is this VHS you speak of?
It's an ancient steam-powered technology that...
I was going to say, that probably had to be like the first movie you had on VHS, huh?
No.
No, back then?
No, I would tape a lot of stuff on back then.
I started off with Betamax, and I don't think I even got one until 74-ish.
Here's something weird and totally off topic. Sorry, but Vincent Price, did An Evening with Edgar Allan Poe, right? Where he does these, they're mini one-man shows based on Edgar Allan Poe stories. He does The Pit and the Pendulum. He does not the Raven, but The Telltale Heart. I taped it, got it on VHS. Years later, I bought the DVD from, I think it was Midnight Movies, right? MGM's Midnight Movies. Do you know that the quality on the VHS is better than what they put on that DVD?
Really?
It honestly is. It is so strange.
Because the Midnight Movies were generally pretty good.
Right. I know. I don't know why they got a kind of a shaky copy on this one. It's weird.
I mean,
anyway,
it's not like it was like Alpha Video or something.
I wonder what their source is.
Right. Yeah. But I digress.
Yeah.
So here's an oddball, and I didn't rewatch it, but I saw it a couple of years ago. A very strange movie called The Spirit of the Beehive. Okay, so
I'm familiar with it.
You're familiar with it.
Yeah.
So this is a movie about takes place. It's a foreign film, Spanish film. Takes place in the 40s during the Spanish Civil War, and has this family with these 2 young girls, and at one point the young girls see Frankenstein, the original Universal Frankenstein, and one of the girls becomes very attached to the monster and connects to the monster and begins to fantasize seeing the monster around her village and stuff. And at some point, I think she starts helping out a soldier who is hiding out near the village, and then she sort of visualizes or imagines he's Frankenstein and begins taking him food, and then she takes him things from her house, and then the soldier's captured, and the authorities find things from her father on the soldier. Anyway, the Frankenstein connection is that, you start to see through her eyes, and the monster is kind of rambling around in this film. And it's all about, again, that thing that Larry spoke about, where how children connect with the monster. They can see themselves, in the monster. And it was just such a strange thing, to have the monster show up in a movie that is clearly not a monster film or a horror film. But again, that quality of the monster has such strong connections for children, especially. So that was kind of a way out there pick. But one that I had come across, I think, during I think it was actually on like PBS or something the first time I saw it.
But is it available anywhere now?
It's probably on, some service. I don't know. I didn't look it up, to be honest. I just remembered seeing it, and then I kind of jarred my memory.
It probably is.
On the internet.
Yeah. It probably is. So, Bob, you said you've recently seen all the Universal ones, I assume in order.
Yes.
Right. What do you think about, watching them in order, you really get a sense of the monster's arc, don't you?
Well, yeah. No, you definitely do, because, he's created. Right. Then he thinks he has a mate. Right. And that actually makes him realize that he should not be living to begin with, that he should be dead.
Right.
But then, he always gets blown up in castles or burned in houses or dropped in sulfur, and he always comes back because he can't be killed. But, and then, he gets Igor's brain.
Right.
He gets the brain transplant. But I think it was like they chalked it up to blood type or compatibility or something.
Right, yeah.
And he goes blind.
Blood type wouldn't feed the optical nerves.
Yeah.
Science.
So he goes blind. And then he comes back. And I think we discussed this in the Universal episode in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, where he was supposed to be blind.
Right.
And
can't speak.
Universal didn't want him to or whatever. So there's kind of that. That's why you get that kind of weird Bela Lugosi portrayal as Frankenstein.
Right. Yeah.
And then, after that, then it was all just kind of monster melees, because you had House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula,
right,
and Abbott and Costello. But at that point, he would just get burned or whatever, and then boom, he comes back the next episode. But it was usually Dracula or somebody, reanimating him.
Right. But his height seems to have been Bride of Frankenstein, because he speaks. Right. He also has his own agency.
Right.
He tells Frankenstein, "You work.
Yeah.
I want this mate. You work. You sleep later. You work. I want this."
Mm-hmm.
So it's the only one where he is like a fully realized character. By the time of Son of Frankenstein, some of that is gone because of the explosion. I look at it like his brain is just kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch. Like it's a regular, it's a human brain inside this tank of a body that gets scrambled kind of every time it goes through a major trauma. So by Son of Frankenstein, he's kind of like Igor's automaton.
Yeah.
I have my own views on the relationship between Igor and the monster.
Do tell.
Kind of controversial, but anyway.
He does things for me.
Yes, I think Igor genuinely loved him. Loved the monster. And I think that comes through in Ghost of Frankenstein when he's talking about, he, my friend, hurt him, and then the way when he's trying to draw the monster away from trouble, he almost, this is going to sound very strange, but he almost kind of coos to him, no, come away, please. No. It's like
the Italian grandmother. Oh, hey, Becca, come here. No, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, in a way, it's kind of sad to me, because after Bride, the monster makes it to the point where not only does he become self-aware and understand that he is the creation of Victor Frankenstein.
Yes.
But he accepts that he is dead.
Right.
And he wants companionship of someone that is dead, thinking that they will accept him.
Right.
And even the bride did not accept him. And that's when he gave him the afangul and said, okay, you belong dead. You go, you live.
Right.
And then there was just this sad decline in the Universal films after that. So it kind of, I don't want to be a bummer. It doesn't, I watch these Ghosts of Frankenstein, it makes me sad, but there is this decline, and it's almost like, when I was talking with my nephew, he's like, come on, let's, go play some football. I'm like, I can't run like I used to. I can't, there's a decline as we get older, my eyesight's not what it used to be. Thank God I don't have an eye guard. Hey, come here, big boy. I make you feel good tonight. I'm good with that. Not that there's anything wrong with that kind of a relationship.
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
That's what jazz is for.
I'll tell you, one of the stranger movies, and I don't mean any disrespect, but The Bride with Sting and Jennifer Beal. Did any of you guys watch that?
Oh, it has been so long since I've seen that.
Back
It's
in
like
the
a distant
80s,
memory.
Clancy Brown plays the monster.
That's a good pick, actually. If Clancy Brown could do it. Yep.
He did a very, very good. Obviously the title of the movie is Bride, so they didn't focus a lot on the monster. But he had a very interesting relationship with Ronaldo the Dwarf. And the name escapes me of the actor, but it reminded me of, oh God, I had it on the tip of my tongue. It's a Steinbeck, and he squeezes the puppy because he loves it so much.
Mice and Men?
Of Mice and Men. The way that he portrayed the monster reminded me of, was it George, I think the character's name in Of Mice and Men? Very sympathetic. Lenny. He was a kind of a simpleton, and it was Ronaldo who loved him and told him, no, you are a good person and you are a handsome man and, this, that, and the other. It was an interesting take on the monster that I haven't seen since that film. Now, the film itself is not that good.
I haven't seen it in years.
And I don't even think it's streaming anywhere. But it was interesting to, if any of you guys get a chance to watch it, to watch that relationship between the monster and Ronaldo the Dwarf.
Interesting. Now, the Dan Curtis Frankenstein, Bo Svensson plays the monster in that. And it is the most sympathetic, heartbreaking portrayal of the monster I've ever seen. And it's interesting because I wish somebody would interview Bo Svensson. I think he's still alive. I'm pretty sure he's still alive. But I would swear that he took part of his performance from Fred Gwynn as Herman Munster.
Really?
Because there are moments where he's got that kind of little screwed up smile, like that kind of mischievous thing that Herman would get, but it's within a serious performance and a serious portrayal and a sympathetic portrayal of the monster. I highly recommend it. Bo Svensson plays the monster, and I have Robert Foxworthy plays the doctor. And it's just brilliant. That is on Amazon.
Okay. All right, good.
Yeah, I saw it on Amazon. I was meaning to watch it, but like I mentioned before, I think I could only make it through so many films where bodies get cut up and reanimated that's why I kind of jettisoned off towards Frankenstein meets the Space Monster and things like that. But yeah, I was definitely meaning to watch it. And even though we're doing this episode now, I will probably go back and watch it at some point.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm going to go back and watch. Amazon has a plethora of films related to the Frankenstein story.
Well, there's always my favorite. And I didn't get to watch it because we had a power outage, but Frankenstein Conquers the World.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Being a Godzilla guy. No, but I mean, it was an interesting concept that, actually they actually go to Frankenstein's lab, and the German army takes the heart from Dr. Frankenstein, and then they're transporting it on the submarine, and that's when the H-bomb hit and all that, or the atomic bomb hit, and the sub sank, and whatever, and the whole concept is that with Frankenstein, if you cut off a limb, it'll grow back. Or if you have a cell, it'll grow a body, type of thing. So the heart actually grows into Frankenstein. And I thought it was a pretty cool concept. I don't know if they did the regeneration thing in any other movies. Obviously, he keeps coming back to life, but, growing limbs and things like that, I don't know if they ever touched on that.
That's a good question.
Now, the sequel to that movie was actually War of the Gargantuas, and you would never know about it in this country because when it was dubbed here, they took out all the references. But in Japan, it was called the Frankenstein Brothers.
Yeah.
Sanda and Gaira. So, basically it was the same thing. It's like, part of Frankenstein or the Frankenstein monster cells wound up like in the ocean, and then also wound up in the mountains. Mm-hmm. So they grew two, quote, Frankenstein monsters, which turned out to be the gargantuas. But one is green, sea based, and the other is brown, and lives in the mountains and things. So if you get a chance to watch the subtitled version of War of the Gargantuas and all that, because they refer to them as Frankenstein and all that, throughout the movie. So,
well, you can even see kind of in the design, they kind of kept the forehead thing going,
Yeah, it's true. And Bob, you're being far more versed in the kaiju world than I am. You would probably know the story better, but Willis O'Brien, after King Kong, wanted to make a King Kong versus Frankenstein film.
Yeah.
And the Frankenstein monster was going to be, they were going to resurrect Kong.
Right.
Frankenstein, I guess, was going to resurrect Kong, and he was building this giant monster, and they were going to fight. And through various nefarious
iterations, it went to it went to like King Kong versus Prometheus, and then it went to it was like King Kong versus a ginkgo, which was like a creature with all these different animal parts sewn together.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then, it turned out, and we kind of covered this in our King Kong episode recently, but basically Jerry Beck was wound up with the rights because Willis O'Brien kind of assumed he had the rights to Kong.
Right.
And then RKO said, no. We own Kong. So Willis O'Brien was kind of out of it at that point, and Jerry Beck went to RKO, got the rights, took the whole idea to Toho, and Toho said, oh, we like that. But instead of this other monster, we want Godzilla in there. And it became King Kong versus Godzilla. Right. And then they actually, and they later did the Frankenstein movie, and they did another Kong movie and all that. So, but yeah, that's kind of the seeds of where that grew from.
Another interesting facet of at least the various films of Frankenstein is the vast majority of the American Frankenstein films deal with the monsters. The doctor makes the monster, and it's following the monster and the having all of the European the Hammer films.
Yes.
The through line is the doctor.
Right.
The through line is the monster just, he's just creating monsters as he goes. That storyline is Frankenstein as this absolutely obsessed sociopath who will do whatever he needs to do in order to perfect. That's something that's always bugged me. In order to perfect his experiment in bringing a creature to life, he does it many times. What is the missing element he's looking for?
It wasn't a good enough man, it wasn't a perfect enough creature. So
it wasn't perfect enough, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, the thing that's maybe less appealing to some of us is because, looking at Hammer and going through the films, it's really following Frankenstein, the Dr. Frankenstein, Baron Frankenstein. Right. And, as much as I love Peter Cushing, it's still, I don't know, it's more appealing to me anyway to follow the monster, I guess. So yeah, it's almost like, following, a serial killer or something, as he goes along, because he is murdering people and doing all sorts of horrendous things. He is a monster. He's just not the type of monster, maybe like me personally that I would prefer. But yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that. And then I know there's a lot of other European films that have done Frankenstein. But yeah, you're right. They focus on Dr. Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Really interesting.
But think about some of the actors that played the monster. They had Christopher Lee. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a Kiwi Kingston.
Yeah,
David Prowse, Darth Vader himself was the monster.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, one of the Hammer films I watched was Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell, which the Monster from Hell was not like your typical Frankenstein monster. He was.
Yeah. What was he? I saw that recently.
Well, I mean, he was basically Frankenstein was held up in a like an asylum.
Right.
And he was taking, as patients in the asylum were passing away either naturally or by his hands.
Right.
He would take those and sew them together into this creature. Right. And but yeah, it was just like more of a beast really than your typical Frankenstein monster.
They described him as he was a local, he was an inmate, but he was basically this local brute.
Yeah, he was like very strong
glass.
brute.
Enjoyed breaking glass and shoving it in people's faces.
Yeah.
But
he also escaped from his cell one time as his regular human self by bending the bars.
Yeah,
so he was already strong.
Why he was a caveman?
Well, yeah, because he's got hair all over all over his body.
Yeah,
and that.
Yeah. He's just he didn't so much make this one as find him and just kind of augment him.
Yeah, and that was, it was a good twist. Like I say,
Yeah.
Just watching the movies where he gets, sewn together and reanimated over and over and over again. This one, it was nice to have one with a little twist to it.
Yeah, and that was the last one. That was the last Hammer Frankenstein film. And it ends with him planning the next monster.
Yeah.
It's just this pull-out shot, and he's there in the laboratory just muttering away to himself as to what he did wrong that time. And
that's the thing, because it's like everything went wrong. Anything that could go wrong went wrong, and then when finally he had to destroy his monster, and then he's like, okay, well, let's see, next time I can do this, or I'll do that different.
It's just the mad scientist thing, right? It's the mad scientist trope. So
the
you're
obsession.
Really there. You're in it for that rather than for the monster itself. You're following, okay, what kind of sick and twisted thing is this guy going to do this time?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And like I had it sitting on the player, and I didn't get a chance to watch it, but there was also Frankenstein Creates Woman.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Has anyone seen Frankenstein Unbound?
Many years ago, yes, and it was that's the Corman movie.
Roger Corman, yeah.
And that's a trip with all the time travel and stuff in it.
It really is, yeah. And talk about Frankenstein and its commentary on technology, and that any kind of incredibly dangerous creation of science can be likened to the Frankenstein monster. I believe in this one, he creates a device that can control the weather.
Oh,
right?
There's a bunch. There's a whole bunch. I mean, it's got like the kitchen sink. It's got a whole bunch of stuff in there. And I remember the creature had stitched together eyes of all different colors. And I think John Hurt was the protagonist?
Yeah, he was the scientist from the future,
right?
Who travels back in time. Yeah.
Well, wasn't that the movie poster where they had like a close up of an eye? And it was an iris that was 4 different colors stitched together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fascinating film.
I wanted to go back and see that one. I didn't get around to it before our podcast, obviously. But that one is worth checking out for sure.
Oh yeah. And it really see the movie, but definitely by the end of the film, it kind of says, that any dangerous creation of science will ultimately escape the control of the scientist.
Mm-hmm.
It's bound to happen. It's bound to proliferate beyond the control of human beings.
And that theme we see that in the original Jurassic Park too.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
right.
Well, the Terminator, Skynet.
We're seeing it now with AI. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Right. So it's a common theme, a common worry of mankind.
And you could say that started with Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That entire concept started with Frankenstein before the industrial, 1818, before the Industrial Revolution, right? Because that was more 1880s, 1890s was the Industrial Revolution.
So she was really on the edge of seeing all this stuff happen.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the movies introducing the whole thing about lightning and electricity and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That was harkening back to Frankenstein, the True Story. It was not thunder, lightning, whatever. It was actually he used chemicals, and then he used power from the sun.
Yeah.
By harnessing the power of the sun to revive him. And it wasn't in the original novel. It wasn't lightning, or it was just like chemicals in that, right?
Yeah, right.
I think she just mentions like at one point there's a quote about like an engine or something, and
working of a mysterious engine.
Yeah, but it's never really described. Even though I know she was influenced, like Lord Blood-Rah said about galvanism, but it's never totally said, yes, electricity brought him back to life. So
some of the films spoke of cosmic rays too,
Oh, Son of Frankenstein. I was watching that last night. Yeah, and Wolf Frankenstein says, "Oh, they thought it was lightning, but it was really cosmic rays." Yeah. Right. Look at these bullets in his chest, and that's a fascinating sequence in that.
Like
where
the Fantastic Four.
The monster in. Maybe he's more like the Thing. Who knows?
There you go.
But yeah, the lab sequence where he's checking him out and he's finding out all his physiology.
Speaking of that, it's like I did catch a couple episodes of Frankenstein Jr. while I was watching all this stuff. So,
howdy, Buzz.
Let's go, Frankie. All right, Buzz.
All right, Buzz. Yeah, well, that huge apparatus that sits over the slab that the monster's on, with the big, like, kind of glowing orbs on either end, that's called the cosmic inducer.
Ah.
Yeah. They call that Strickfaden called it the cosmic inducer. So
I thought the cool thing with all that stuff was when they made Young Frankenstein.
Yes.
They went back and they found all those electronic gizmos and Jacob's ladders and everything. It was all in some guy's garage somewhere in Hollywood. And they found it all and they were able to bring it back. And so that's all the original equipment that was in the 1931 Frankenstein.
Yeah.
So cool.
It's funny too, watching Son of Frankenstein last night. You realize how much of Young Frankenstein, I mean, obviously it comes from the Universal films, but so much of it comes from Son of Frankenstein too. There's so many things in there with, Krog with his arm and throwing the darts, even the bizarre stylings of the castle. I would say some of the things with Igor and his playing the pipe.
Yeah, the music luring the monster.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's the secret passages and all the other stuff. There's a lot of stuff from that film. I think those first three films are really the canon of Universal Frankenstein. And it really, like we said, it's just diminishes so much after those three films. He just becomes a shuffling mess after that.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But yeah, in Young Frankenstein, I think Gene Wilder's performance is a direct takeoff on Basil Rathbone in Son of Frankenstein. I think Basil Rathbone is hilarious in Son of Frankenstein.
Well,
when he's panicked, it's just so depressing.
He gets the anxiety shoots up as the film goes on, and he's just
that's right. Yeah,
shaken towards the end. Yeah,
right.
It's unintentional. I don't think it was intentionally supposed to be funny, but it is a little funny towards the end there, with falling apart with his drink and talking to Lionel Atwill. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but you can't beat the first two, and I think Bride of Frankenstein is like one of the greatest films of all time. Period.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So obviously it all goes downhill from there. But yeah, Lieutenant Debbie and I were able to go to the Stanford Theater in Palo Alto last year and see Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein on the big screen, which is just. I mean, I've seen them, here and there, but yeah, it's just amazing just to watch the two of those back to back on the big screen.
Yeah, and it's you get dragged into the film all over again. I mean, yeah, like you said, seen them hundreds of times on TV. On a big screen, it's just the presence of those films are so dominating that it's like seeing them for the first time.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will say you really have to focus on the acting, because I could see the backdrop seams in the sky supposedly.
Oh yeah.
No one knew.
Well, yeah, when they're in the graveyard and the background.
So, but I agree. I love a shared experience with an audience. it is how you should watch a film, really. I mean,
yeah, hopefully that'll happen again.
Yeah.
Yes, let's hope.
Now, that's the whole idea behind what we were trying to do with Bay Area film events, and the fact that, you can sit on your couch and have the greatest, home theater, surround sound, whatever, but there's nothing like, the community experience of just seeing it and enjoying it with like-minded people. People say, "Oh, I don't like going to the movie theaters because people kick my chair and they spill their drink and whatever." But no, it's like, and they heckle and whatever. But no, when you go like to a specific screening of an older film these days, whether it's Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, or whatever, you're sitting there with a whole audience of like-minded people. And that's when you really get the experience of watching these movies.
Right.
Well, it's an older, more mature audience, so there's more burping and farting, to be sure, but there is more of a
more trips to the bathroom.
Yeah. Excuse me.
They got to keep stopping the film, damn it.
That's me. We had a small discussion before about Penny Dreadful, and Rory Kinnear is the guy who played the Frankenstein monster in that series, and I'll put him up there with any cinematic version of the monster.
Yes.
He brought heart and anger and just all the emotions that the creature would feel, and it's just, if you guys listening have not seen Penny Dreadful, do yourself a favor, go out there and
yes, it is amazing.
Stream it, or
that would be me.
I'm having an extreme reaction to you just saying that actor who played the monster was Rory Kinnear, because just recently, as everybody is discovering things on TV because we're all home, I discovered this incredible British comedy called Count Arthur Strong. It's amazing. It's about this old vaudevillian and this young guy who's the son of his ex-partner, who goes to him, writes a book, and it's just all their comedy adventures. It's very hilarious. Rory Kinnear plays the author of the book.
Really?
Yes, and when you just said it was Rory Kinnear, the two images flashed, and I'm like, oh my God, that's him. Beautiful.
Well, hold on. I'm making my Lord Blood-Rah a watch list here. What's it called again?
Count Arthur Strong.
And
it's on. I think you're only going to find it on Acorn. You might be able to find it on Amazon.
Okay.
At least 1 or 2 seasons. It's hilarious. But sorry, total digression. But I had a personal.
No, that's fine. He's a great actor.
Yes,
good performer.
Yeah, he is.
Well, I know Karen wanted to talk a little bit about the comics.
Oh, I had a couple of shout outs I wanted to make as far as comics go. I know we have people who listen who read comics. And of course, Marvel Comics did adapt the Frankenstein story back in the 70s. Gary Friedrich wrote, and the great Mike Plug drew the monster. He can do no wrong when drawing monsters. And then they went on to send the monster off on different adventures, Plug drawing for quite a while. And then I think Don Perlin came in, John Buscema, and different people. So both in the Monster's own title, and then there were always those black and white magazines like Monsters Unleashed, where Frankenstein, or the Frankenstein monster, don't want to make a faux pas, would show up. So you can find, I have a nice collection the audience can't see, but there's a nice trade paperback that has most of the Frankenstein stories in it. So that's something you can go out and grab off of, any seller's book site. I'm not going to recommend anybody in particular. And then there's a kind of a more unusual Frankenstein story I read a couple of years ago by Mike Mignola, the guy who does Hellboy. He's had Hellboy crossover with the Frankenstein monster. And he had a separate adventure for the monster called Frankenstein Underground. And it was a pretty cool story because it kind of tickled some of my different interests with the Frankenstein monster, and then it had some Hollow Earth stuff going on, the monster going and dealing with this cult of people who lived under the earth, and there were sort of some Cthulhu type creatures involved, and so that's collected in a trade paperback, so definitely worth people checking out if they like Hellboy and they like Frankenstein's monster. So yeah, there's a couple things if you want to get your Frankenstein fix through comics that I would recommend.
Very cool.
Yeah, and talking about the faux pas, was it Son of Frankenstein, right? When they're on the train, and basically Wolf Frankenstein is just mentioning that villagers have even taken to calling the monster Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly.
So that kind of, I don't know if that's like because people were after the first two movies were doing that or whatever, but yeah, it was almost like a way of explaining it.
Well, Bob, it's actually Frankenstein.
My name is Frankenstein.
Yes. Yeah, I have a comic shout out. The artwork and the writing is just amazing in this. It's Frankenstein Alive, and it was written by Steve Niles and illustrated by the great Bernie Wrightston.
Ah, that's a beautiful one.
And every panel of that book is just gorgeous. And the story itself, it gives the monster the kind of happy ending after the novel that you want him to have. It's just beautifully written, obviously beautifully illustrated by Bernie Wrightston, and I would definitely recommend picking that up. Frankenstein Alive.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
Well, look, guys, before we get into our censor sweep, do we have any honorable mentions or any other films or different types of media involving Frankenstein and his creation?
I know I mentioned it, but I didn't really talk about it, was the fact that I watched I Was a Teenage Frankenstein. Now, I Was a Teenage Werewolf, one of my favorite movies,
Yes.
So I Was a Teenage Frankenstein was, Gary Conway plays the monster. And everyone's favorite mad scientist, Whit Bissell, plays Dr. Frankenstein. And I mean, I really enjoy that movie. I've always enjoyed that movie, and I just thought the makeup on Teenage Frankenstein was just one of the best. Just because he has that one bulging eye, and obviously his face is all decayed.
Interesting makeup.
Brought him back in How to Make a Monster, but that was just sort of like a movie behind a movie. So you never really got the actual Teenage Frankenstein versus Teenage Werewolf, but you just had like a glimpse of it. How to Make a Monster.
Yeah, that was an interesting film. I like that movie, How to Make a Monster. Disgruntled makeup artist. It goes crazy. Yeah.
That's right. He puts chemicals in the makeup and hypnoptizes them to go out and attack people as Teenage Werewolf or as Teenage Frankenstein.
I would like to mention Frankenstein 1970. Which is kind of important in the whole Frankenstein film lore because it's Boris Karloff's return after so many years to Frankenstein films. He plays Baron Frankenstein, some past and relative of the original Frankenstein, and in it, this film crew comes to the Frankenstein castle to film a film or series of commercials or something like that, and of course he's building a monster, as all Frankensteins do. So
can't help themselves.
Can't help themselves. That's right. It's like it's like
in my
cashews.
blood. It's in my genes.
That's right. Yeah. And hilarity ensues, but it's a fun film. Of course, Karloff gives it 100% like he always does. So that makes the film well worth watching.
Very cool.
Now, what year did that come out? Because 1970 was supposed to kind of be the future, right?
Yeah, nope. I believe it was 1967? 66, 67? I am not entirely sure. Yeah, it definitely wasn't 1970, no. because it was supposed to be some future year. Because of course he's using, instead of lightning, he's using an atomic generator. So that makes it futuristic.
Wow. That's right. Clean energy.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Hey, you know.
Yeah.
Karen, my friend, do you have any?
Yeah, there was one I thought we would touch on, and we didn't get. There's just so many. I mean,
I know that's.
I've got 4 or 5 in my head, but the one I will throw out that I thought we would touch on and we didn't was Monster Squad.
Oh, yes.
Very good. That was one of the ones I was thinking of.
Yeah, another sympathetic portrayal of the monster. So, and of course, it was a big monster bash. So,
well, yeah, we actually got the projector and screen out in the Monster Garage and had a night with the kids and watched Monster Squad last Friday.
It's a nice, fun movie.
I think the makeup effects in that movie for all of the monsters were great.
Oh, well, yeah, you had a great team on that.
Well, it's Stan Winston, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, great work.
Very much an 80s film with the dialogue, but I love it.
Wolfman's got nards.
Yes, of course.
My pick is going to be Mary Shelley's Frankenstein with De Niro. The film overall, you can love it or hate it, but one of the scenes that I really, even now, strikes me is the monster in that ice cave. And, he's playing the flute, and the dialogue is, am I the monster playing the flute, or is it the brain that I have in me that's playing the flute, or the right hand, or the left hand? Who is playing? And it's just this deep soul searching of who am I? What am I?
Right.
And mayhem ensues
right.
after that. Of course. I thought De Niro did a good job playing the creature.
He did, absolutely. I agree.
Anyway, that's my pick.
I actually found that movie at half price for $4.99. I just didn't get a chance to watch it.
Oh.
I will get to it though. Can't waste $4.99.
Yeah, right.
No,
exactly.
No, you do not. I got a digital version of the Bride of Frankenstein for $2.99 on Amazon.
Wow.
Amazon Prime, and I jumped on it because you're going to pay $9.99 or more for a digital version of the film. And God knows I have all kinds of DVD, Blu-ray of that movie. I probably even have a little flip book and a ViewMaster of the film, but what the hey. But I was saying, Lord Blood-Rah, it's always fun to have you on the show. We need to have you on more often. But
always
I know
a pleasure.
Thank you. I know you're real busy with your various projects, and this censor sweep, we're going to listen to Lord Blood-Rah and all the shenanigans and shows and things he has going on during this COVID shelter in place. Lord Blood-Rah.
Thank you. Well, of course, there are no live events happening.
Right.
That's a shame. Not this year. But, of course, the TV show is still going. You can check out where to catch my TV show, Lord Blood-Rah's Nerve-Wracking Theater, at lordbloodrah.com. Go to the TV schedule page, and there are various streaming outlets on Roku and just general streaming where you can see them. I'm currently putting together a few ideas for some live Facebook or YouTube stream shows around October. For the Halloween season to brighten that up a little bit. And I'm currently putting together a DVD. That's the title. It's basically my Halloween DVD. I haven't got the title yet, but it'll be basically everything I put into my live Halloween shows. So it'll be a Lord Blood-Rah's Tricks and Treats, which is a compilation of various short films, trailers, rare television bits and things like that, all centered around the Halloween kind of spirit. And the feature film on that DVD will be House on Haunted Hill for the first time in 3D.
Oh, nice.
And the package will include one pair of the standard red-green 3D glasses. Look for that to come out sometime around September 1st, I'm hoping. And, of course, last Sunday would have been all things being equal, it would have been Creatures Con 2020. And to mark the occasion, we put up 5 presentations on Facebook. So if you go to Creatures Con, if you go to the Facebook Creatures Con page, they're still up there in the videos. We did a interview with David Frankham that was very fun. These 2 psychology professors from Illinois call themselves the Psych Geeks, and they examine various elements of horror and science fiction and fandom from a psychological point of view. They're really interesting guys. I did a panel with them last year in Peoria, and it was one of the most interesting conversations I've ever had, let alone being on a panel with them. It was great. And there are other presentations there. If you go to the video section at the Creatures Con page on Facebook, you'll find that. Cool. And next year will be Creatures Con 2020. That will be coming up August 8th, Sunday, August 8th at the Crown Plaza in Concord.
2021, right?
What?
2021?
2021. What did I say?
2020.
2020. No, yeah, 2021. Yeah, this is 2020. Yeah, we all know.
We're going to do this year's show next year.
Right, yeah. Why not? Yeah. And next year's show will be all about the birth of the Universal monsters.
Oh.
Hey,
right?
fits right in.
2021, it's 90 years since 1931, which is when, of course, Dracula and Frankenstein were first released and kicked off the entire Universal cycle.
And we'll have to do this episode over next year then.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. And our very special guest will be David J. Scal. Who did all the there you go, holding up a book.
I love the Monster Show.
The Monster Show, A Cultural History of Horror. He also did all of the he did documentaries and some commentaries for all the official Universal Monster releases. He's got a film coming out called, he's got a book. I think it's currently out, called Death Makes a Holiday. It's a cultural history of Halloween, and various other things that he's done. So he's going to be our very special guest next year. And
that would be great.
Yeah, you can check all that out at creaturescon.com. And other than just keeping the show going and getting ready for the convention, check out my website, check out the Facebook page, and a few things will be coming up for the Halloween season, definitely.
Very cool. Looking very, very forward, actually, to all that good stuff coming out from Lord Blood-Rah. Thanks again for being on the show. We look forward to having you on real soon.
Always thrilled to be here.
Keep up the mayhab and the macabre.
You got it. The macabre.
Macabre.
It's the Spanish version.
Yes. Macabre. I like that. And thank you for the epiphany on Rory Kinnear.
Yes, I'm going to have to find that TV show now and watch it myself. That was great.
Blew my mind. It was beautiful.
Very good.
Great. If I can just put in one final plug at the end of the show here.
Yes, sir.
This episode will run on August 22nd, I believe. So you should be able to, it will already be out. You should be able to go and buy the Arrow Gamera box set. And this is like all the Gamera films on Blu-ray. The 3 90s films, which I think are like the pinnacle of kaiju, are going to be in 4K. And a ton of extras. And I've mentioned on the show before, but Keith Aiken and I, we do Sci-Fi Japan. We do the audio commentary on the last film, Gamera the Brave. So go and buy it. It's expensive, but worth it. Check it out.
Very cool.
Awesome.
All right.
On that note, this will conclude this transmission from Planet 8. We would like to thank all of our intergalactic audience for listening. Be sure to head on over to our website at www.planet8podcast.com, where you can get more information on this episode's topic.
For more conversation, find us on Twitter at Planet8Cast.
Or on Facebook at facebook.com/Planet8Podcast.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every episode. We look forward to your input and opinions. Until next time, this is Planet 8 signing off. End transmission.
By George, he's got it. It is the end.
so, until we meet again, may all your nightmares have happy endings in the final reel. Good night, and sleep well.